And welcome to Datalinx webinar series on Warehouse Manager for Sage X3. And so let's take a quick recap of how Warehouse Manager fits into the bigger picture around X3 so that we know where we are. The Warehouse Manager is an embedded warehouse management system for Sage X3. It uses the same web services layer as all of the other applications that make up the X3 system. And this means that all of the transactions that you see me do in the demo will perform real-time updates in X3, a key reason why many of our customers have chosen an embedded warehouse management system. And that, of course, means there are no time delays or data synchronization issues, as Warehouse Manager talks directly to the X3 database rather than through a separate system. And this means that you will always have a single view of your data at any one point in time. So if you're using any of the recommended Sage Analytics or Insight tools, you may have dashboards showing real-time warehouse activity, just as one example. And that was a quick reminder of the general architecture of Warehouse Manager and how it fits into the bigger picture of X3. Let's now take a look at what we're going to demonstrate. Okay, so we're going to be using Sage X3 version 12, but everything that we're going to look at today is equally relevant to versions 9 and 11. So to run our demonstration scenarios, we're going to use a client handheld simulator, rather like the one displayed, which is based on the Zebra MC device. And at this point, it's worth reminding everyone that we are hardware agnostic. Warehouse Manager will run on Android, Windows Mobile, as well as industry standard tablets and PC devices, and that the user interface is designed to be fully touchscreen and doesn't require any stylus pens or function keys. So let's begin the first of our demonstrations, and I'm going to log into the handheld. So using the handheld as an example, I've got a menu set up that I use for demonstration purposes, but hopefully what you see looks fairly familiar. So let's take a look at the first of our two demonstrations. And the first one is about picking a sales order quantity that is from a pick face in 4 boxes and a number of individuals. And what we're going to do is use 2 barcodes to perform these kind of picks. The first barcode is for a full box, and this will be for a quantity of 10. The second barcode is the inner barcode, often referred to as the product UPC, and will be used to select individual items. And we're going to demonstrate how we're able to do the picking using an incremental approach that is 100% scanning and therefore requires no manual entry on the keypad. We'll take a look at the setups afterwards. But before we do this, we're firstly going to run through a standard sales order pick and ship so that we can compare and contrast how much easier it is to use incremental scanning in this particular scenario. And as is always the case with Warehouse Manager, we'll be picking from pick tickets that I've already created inside Sage. So before we do anything on the handheld, let's just take a quick look at the pick tickets, and they're actually going to be the same for both demonstrations. So the product we're going to be using is a cycle chain. And in our demonstrations, this product comes in boxes of 10. And we can see that we're going to be picking a quantity of 12 items. And that means we're going to pick a full box followed by 2 individuals. But actually, the pick could be in any sequence. I could pick the individuals first if I wanted to. There's only 1 line item on the order, and this is just to demonstrate the concept. But in a real life scenario, there will typically be more items to pick. And the second order that we're going to pick is for exactly the same quantity and exactly the same product, number 37. Yep. So let's now go and pick the first of the 2 orders using standard sales order pick and ship. So if I go back to the handheld and pick picking and issues, followed by sales order pick and ship, I'm selecting by pick ticket. And from my list of pick tickets, I will select the one that I'm picking, which is number 37. And there's only 1 line item, so I'm going to select that one accordingly. And the handheld displays the line item details and the quantity that I need to pick. The handheld is also guiding me to the location that has the older stock. So on arrival, I will scan that location. And I'm now being prompted for the product code. So I'm going to pick a full box first, and this will be a quantity of 10. And I will now scan the outer box barcode that represents a quantity of 10. And this barcode has derived from the mappings held within Sage, something that we're going to take a look at later, that we are working with boxes of 10, and I'm now being asked how many full boxes I'm going to pick. And a quantity of 12 is effectively 1.2 boxes. Plus, the quantity to pick is now displayed in boxes and means that the packing unit of 10 has actually been picked up. And so what the handheld is saying is actually correct. But I'm only going to be picking one full box. So I will enter a quantity of 1. And as we can see, the quantity still to be picked is 0.2 of a full box, which is correct in this pick, because we're working in boxes of 10 with still 2 to be picked. So I'm going to confirm that. And that was a successful posting. So I'm now going to, now we can go back and pick the 2 remaining individuals. And on the screen, we can see that the handheld is guiding me again to the location where the older stock resides. And so as before, I will scan the location. And we're going to be picking individuals from a box already opened. And so this time around, we're going to scan the inner box UPC code that is on the actual item itself. So obviously we can see that the UPC has been used to identify which product we're picking, and this was mapped back to the product record inside Sage. So I'm going to enter a quantity of 2, and that's followed by confirm. And that is the pick ticket completed. So what we've done here is use different barcodes for the same product. And in the process of doing so, see how they affect the behavior of the handheld when managing pick quantities. But in this example, we needed to enter pick quantities. And this was something that consumed time. So now let's process a similar pick ticket, but this time around use an incremental approach to the sales order picking and see what the operational differences are. So on the handheld, I will be selecting picking and issues. This time I'm going to use incremental sales order pick and ship. I'm selecting by pick ticket. And from my list of pick tickets, I'll select the one that I'm going to pick, which is number 36, which is for 12 items. And as before, there's only one line item, and so I will select that accordingly. The handheld again displays the line item details and the quantity that I need to pick. And it's also guiding me to the location that has the older stock. So on arrival, I'll scan the location again. And I'm now being prompted for the product code. So as in the previous demonstration, I'm going to pick a full box first, and this will be a quantity of 10. But in standard sales order picking, I would have to scan each item. And in this case, that would be 10 scans. And this is something that would be very time consuming. And this is not ideal for fast picking. It defeats the object entirely. So what do we do? Well, as in the first demonstration, I'm going to use the outer box barcode that maps to a full box of 10. And we will see how this is set up later. So in the product field, I will scan that particular barcode. As we can see, by scanning the outer box barcode, Warehouse Manager has returned a quantity of 10, and this value has been used to calculate the quantity still to be picked. But most of all, this happened in a single scan. And we only have 2 individuals to pick now, or 0.2 of a box, because remember that at this point in the pick process, we're working with full boxes. So I can confirm that pick, and that was a successful posting. Now I could, if I wanted, switch on auto confirm and switch off that acknowledgement message to speed up the picking process. But obviously I haven't done today because we want to walk through the process. And clearly, if I did change these simple settings, then the picking would be much faster. So now let's go and pick the individuals. And on the screen, we can see we need to pick two more units. Again, we're going to pick individuals from a box already opened and scan the inner box UPC barcode that's on the actual item itself. So let's scan the first one. I'll confirm that. And the second one. And that is the pick ticket completed. So what we've done here is similar to the previous demonstration where we use different barcodes for the same product, but the whole picking process using an incremental approach was 100% scanning. Remember that we can set up the handheld to auto-confirm. And this is the key difference between a standard sales order pick and an incremental pick. With an incremental pick, the quantity is assumed to be 1. But if we scan the outer box barcode, Warehouse Manager takes the box quantity, and this effectively becomes a single increment. The handheld will reduce the pick quantity accordingly, and using incremental scanning enables a process that requires no manual data entry, only 100% scanning. So before we move on to the next demonstration, let's go into X3 and see how this was all set up. And we're going to focus on the product setup and also take a look at the barcodes that we use so that we can see what is happening inside Sage. So let's go into products. And the chain was the product that we used. If we look at the units of measure, we can see that our stock unit is UN. In our packing units, I have a unit called PAC set up that I've used to create a pack size mapping to a quantity of 10. But the question is what does Warehouse Manager do with this mapping? As we can see, there is no barcode associated with this particular mapping. If we scroll down to the Warehouse Manager tab, we can see that a mapping of PAC unit type has been done to a product reference, chain B10. And what we've done here is extended the packing unit capability within X3 to enable out-of-box barcode references to be mapped to a specific quantity, in our case 10. And this means that when I scan the PAC barcode, which is this one here, Warehouse Manager knows that I'm selecting a full box, and in the case of our example, Warehouse Manager will return a value of 10 to the handheld. If I scan the main product code, or in this case the UPC, then Warehouse Manager assumes that we are selecting individuals and will return a value of 1, as it did in the demonstration. So we go back up to the Identification tab. We can see this is the UPC reference that was held against this product and was the one that we scanned in the demonstration. We started by showing how Warehouse Manager is able to extend Sage's unit of measure and packing unit capability and assign a barcode to represent a box quantity. We then ran through a few sales order picking demonstrations using both an outer box barcode that represented a full box quantity and an inner box UPC for individual items. We showed this through a standard sales order pick, followed by one that used an incremental approach, and saw how the workflows on the handheld differ in each scenario. But clearly the incremental approach was much quicker, because when we scanned the outer box barcode, one increment was a quantity of 10. And more importantly, incremental scanning was 100% scanning and required no manual entry, like we had to do in the standard sales order picking scenario. And that concludes our webinar today. Thanks very much.